right. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. We are back. Continuing with our look at the triennial Torah portion. This week we are going to be looking at Exodus chapter 3. Shemot chapter 3, which is he was a shepherd. He was a shepherd. He was a shepherd. Is it dark in here? Oh, no, too dark. Okay. All right. Okay, so let us go ahead and pull up for ourselves here Exodus chapter 3. And we'll go ahead and read through the third verse here. Let me go ahead and put it up on the screen for us here. And we'll go ahead and read through it and talk about it after. Okay, so go ahead and start with verse 1 and read it nice and loud for us here.
Exodus 3. Here we go. And Moshe was shepherding the flock of Yithro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian. And he led the flock to the back of the wilderness and came to Horeb, the mountain of Elohim. And the messenger of Yahweh appeared to him in a flame of fire from the midst of a bush. And he looked and saw the bush burning with fire, but the bush was not consumed. And Moshe said, "Let me turn aside now and see this great sight, why the bush does not burn." And Yahweh saw that he turned aside to see, and Elohim called to him from the midst of the bush, and said, "Moshe, Moshe." And he said, "Here I am." And he said, "Do not come near here. Take your sandals off your feet, for the place on which you are standing is set apart ground." And he said, "I am the Elohim of your father, the Elohim of Abraham, the Elohim of Yitzhak, and the Elohim of Yaakov." And Moshe hid his face, for he was afraid to look at Elohim. And Yahweh said, "I have indeed seen the oppression of my people who are in Mitzrayim, and have heard their cry because of their slave drivers. For I know their sorrows, and I have come down to deliver them from the hand of the Mitzrites, and to bring them up from that land to a good and spacious land, to a land flowing with milk and honey, to the place of the Canaanites and the Hittites and the Amorites and the Perizzites and the Hivites and the Jebusites. And now see, the cry of the children of Israel has come to me, and I have also seen the oppression with which the Mitzrites oppress them. And now come, I am sending you to Pharaoh to bring my people, the children of Israel, out of Mitzrayim." And Moshe said to Elohim, "Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh, and that I should bring the children of Israel out of Mitzrayim?" And he said, "Because I am with you, and this is to you the sign that I have sent you. When you have brought the people out of Mitzrayim, you are to serve Elohim on this mountain." And Moshe said to Elohim, "See, when I come to the children of Israel and say to them, 'The Elohim of your fathers has sent me to you,' and they say to me, 'What is his name?' what shall I say to them?" And Elohim said to Moshe, "I am that which I am." And he said, "Thus you shall say to the children of Israel, 'I am has sent me to you.'" And Elohim said further to Moshe, "Thus you are to say to the children of Israel, 'Yahweh Elohim of your fathers, the Elohim of Abraham, the Elohim of Yitzhak, and the Elohim of Yaakov has sent me to you.' This is my name forever, and this is my remembrance to all generations. Go, and you shall gather the elders of Israel together, and say to them, Yahweh Elohim of your fathers, the Elohim of Abraham, of Yitzchak, and of Yaakov, appeared to me, saying, I have indeed visited you, and seen what is done to you in Mitzrayim. And I say, I am bringing you up out of the affliction of Mitzrayim to the land of the Canaanites, and the Hittite, and the Amorite, and the Perizzite, and the Hivite, and the Jebusite, to a land flowing with milk and honey. And they shall listen to your voice, and you shall come, you and the elders of Israel, to the sovereign of Mitzrayim. And you shall say to him, Yahweh Elohim of the Hebrews has met with us. And now please let us go 3 days, journey into the wilderness to slaughter to Yahweh, our Elohim. But I know that the sovereign of Mitzrayim is not going to let you go, not even by a strong hand. And I shall stretch out my hand and strike Mitzrayim with all my wonders which I shall do in its midst. And after that he shall let you go. And I shall give this people favor in the eyes of the Mitzrites. And it shall be that when you go, you shall not go empty-handed. But every woman shall ask from her neighbor and from the stranger in her house objects of silver and objects of gold and garments. And you shall put them on your sons and on your daughters, and shall plunder the Mitzrites.
Okay. All right. Okay, all right, let's go over here. Let's go back up here and look at Exodus chapter 3. Let's go back up to the top here. We want to look at a few things. There's a few things we want to talk about inside of here. First of all, we want to go to the beginning, where it says, and Moshe was shepherding. And Moshe was shepherding. It says that he was shepherding because that's what he was a shepherd. And so we want to look at that because it's interesting when we look at this little bit of information that it gives to us in terms of what his occupation, let's say, was, the thing that he did for the better part of his day-to-day. What he did is interesting when we look at this job of a shepherd, because when you think about it, when you think about the life of Moshe here, it's almost as if he's in training, right? He's in training for what he is about to be doing, right? The years that Moshe spends in and with the land of Midian, with the priest of Midian, Jethro. We are easily able to look at this situation and see kind of the maturation, the growth of Moshe. We're able to see, some of the qualities that he is able to cultivate while he's there, and we're able to see actually why. We're able to see why the Most High even chose him. All right, so let's look at. Hold on one second. Let's get our tools together here. let's look at some of these words here. If we look in the King James, it says that Moses kept the flock. Okay, Moses kept the flock. And so, what this word here that's translated as kept is what we're looking at here is ra'ah. Right? Some translations, like the scriptures, translates it as shepherding. When we look at this word here, it is ra'ah. Hold on one second here. So let's hold on a second. Let's add this here. All right, here we go. Here, let's just make this a little bigger so that we can see it a little better here. All right. The word here is ra'ah, which is, interestingly enough, a resh, a ain, and a hey. Resh, ain, hey. If we were to look at that in the ancient, if we look at that in the ancient, do we have our little
The whiteboard?
the little one?
Yeah.
Where is it?
Should be over
Let me just put this on here. See something interesting when we look at this in the ancient. Let me go ahead.
But Brett might not be the best choice. Is there a black one over there?
It's fine. Let me just have eraser.
Ari has a little. Thank you, Ari.
Okay. So, one second here. Let me put this up here. If we have our word here, ra'ah, which again is the resh, the ain, and the hey. So if we look at that in the ancient, you have a man's head, the resh, which is the man's head, the ain, which is the eye, and the hey,
Oh, thank you.
which is the man with his arms raised. So if we, let's see here, if we, hold on one second. We look here. Okay, again, we have the resh, the ain, and the hey. The man's head, the eye, and the man with his arms raised. Okay? And so we look at that there, so the word for shepherd is really the man that sees and beholds. Shepherd. He's the man that sees. He's the man that sees and beholds or sees.
Because
Right?
it's like behold a great sight.
Right. What that is when you see the race, right? And the beholding of a great sight could be revelation.
Yeah.
Right? It could be, when you think about the hay, it could also be a breath from within. Right? Which also gives you the idea of a revelation, because you're seeing this thing that's from within, right? When you think about the shepherd has to see. He has to see what's going on with his flock. Right? I don't know what's up with my focus. Hold on one second here.
It's because of the light. I don't know why the lighting is so low.
Oh, here we go. That's better. Okay, so the shepherd has to look at his flock, right? He has to look and see what's going on with his flock, right? He has to take the flock to eat, right? He has to pasture them. He has to rule them, right? He has to recognize danger that's afar off, and he has to not only see it, but he has to recognize it. I mean, he has to respond to it,
He has to
right?
interact with it too.
He has to interact with it, and that's why he has his shepherd staff. The shepherd does, right? So that he can beat down, things that come to attack. And so all of these things we see with the shepherd. And so it's interesting when we look at this word shepherd that, again, this is what Moshe is doing. He's shepherding the flock of Yethro. And so he's been delegated the responsibility of shepherding for his father-in-law, Yethro. And it says that he led the flock to the back of the wilderness and came to this mountain. And so it's interesting that we look and see, well, first of all, before we look at that, let's also think about the fact that if we look at the Hebrew, if we look at the Hebrew word to see, is not the same word as shepherd, but it's phonetically the same. Right? It sounds exactly the same. It looks different, but you say the same thing here. Let's look and see. Let's look at this real quick here. Pull this up. Here. Hold on one second. I really have to do something with this situation. All right, so let's look at this word here. This is again Ra'ah, Resh Ayin, Hey, right, which means shepherd. But if we look at this word here, this is Ra'ah, right, which means to see, right? It's not the same word. It means something totally different, right? But it's phonetically the same. The shepherd, the word Ra'ah don't mean to see, but he sees stuff,
Yes.
right? Because that's how he tends to his flock, by seeing it, right? He has to have a keen sense of sight. And so, part of his job, his task, when he shepherds, is actually to see. And the word for see, which, by the way, we see in the next verse here, where it says the messenger of Yahweh appeared to him. And so the shepherd seed the messenger of Yahweh. He seed him. Or he saw him. Right? Ra'ah, the shepherd, Ra'ad, the messenger of Yahweh. So the shepherd sees. Okay? And so we talked about the word before, the word ra'ah, which deals with the idea of seeing, which, it comes from the word that describes a bird of prey, which also sees, right? From a far off distance, it sees its prey, and it sees it from up high, and it goes and interacts with it, right? A ra'ah. And so when we understand the way that the Most High sees us, He sees us from afar, and He interacts with us. He comes down and interacts with us, right? And so the same thing is true for Moses, who is this shepherd, right? Who has learned these ways. I assume he learns these ways from his father-in-law.
He learned a lot from him.
Because he wasn't shepherding in Egypt.
He was in a life of luxury.
You're right. So they didn't even like shepherds. No, when we look at the relationship between the hierarchy, the new hierarchy, and the Hebrews, they look down on the Hebrews because they were just these lowly commoners who were shepherders, right? And Moshe, he, was raised up by, those who were the people that were high up in the situation, right? And so there was a separation between those peoples and Moses. And so when he leaves from Egypt, he lives this totally new life, right? That he never lived before. So he has to actually learn these new tasks, right? And so again, when we think about Moses out here shepherding, I'm saying that he actually is, learning, being cultivated to be who the Most High is calling for him to be. Oh, lastly, when we look at this word ra'ah, let's see if we go down here. I want this interesting thing here, because when we think about Moses, the shepherd, the ra'ah that shepherds, the shepherd needing to see and interact with things, where he sees the things that he sees. Look right here. Look right here. This where it says see, right? But it also could mean see with an R at the end of it, which is seer, right? Which is like a prophet, a seer, right? And so someone who has not only physical sight, but someone who has spiritual sight. And so it's interesting that when we look again at verse 2, by the way, that the messenger of Yahweh appeared to him. He saw the messenger of Yahweh in the flame. I think it's interesting that it's worded in this way, because I think it could say the messenger of Yahweh was in the flame for everyone to see. It could say that, but it appeared to him in the flame from the midst of the bush. And he looked and saw the bush burning, but the bush was not consumed. Was the angel of Yahweh visible to everyone? Was it just, or was it just Moses? Was this part of the spiritual vision that Moses was able to see, or was it something for whoever was walking by could see? I think that when we look at Moses, that was seeing the flock of Jethro when he saw the angel of Yahweh, when it appeared to him in this flaming bush. I think that this was all a result, a culmination of a connection that had been established and, was, being fortified and cultivated from a spiritual perspective in Moses, between Moses and the Most High. Why would the Most High come and deal with, and we're not just talking about the Most High coming and dealing with an individual, but we're talking about the Most High coming and choosing Moses to do a thing that, participate in a thing that is going to really be what the Most High is known for forever. His literal claim to fame comes through this physical instrument, Moses, being used by him in this actual act. Is he going to just find this regular guy to take part in this magnanimous task? It don't seem like it. It don't seem like it's just going to be, just anyone being chosen here, right? It seems like when we see Moses go out here to deal with Jethro, Moses is being trained in the ways, but it mentions for us also the fact that Jethro is a priest in Midian. And so there's some spiritualness to Jethro. Right? The Midianites were, of course, not those that necessarily followed after the Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. But he was a priest, Jethro was, and we could say that he knew of the God of the Hebrews. Somehow.
He was acquainted.
He was acquainted. When we look at the lineage, the Midianites, they come from that line. They can be traced back to Moses, to Abraham. And so, they may not have been, on the direct path, but I would assume that they knew some things, right? And mostly because, again, when you think about, these people and at these times, the ways of the Most High weren't, you didn't have like an orthodoxy, right? You didn't have a law that was codified at this time, right? And so when we think about, the laws of the Most High, for all intents and purposes, they hadn't came down yet. And so you only have this oral tradition that passed down from the fathers, and you know, this thing wasn't. We're able to see that from the time that the Torah comes down and compare it to the way that they did things, there were things that were allowable then that stopped being allowable. And so there were changes that took place.
Yeah.
Right? And so the ways that weren't identical to what came to be. Right? And so when we look at, again, the Midianites, where there can be like a loose association with the Hebrews, I think it just was that. But again, we're talking about the fact that Moses was this shepherd that sees. I think that when we look at verse 2, I think that his occupation of shepherding, his ability to see the fact that the Most High is holy, he's going to call someone who is relatively holy. He's relatively holy, right? To do this task. Look how he does it. Look at verse 2. Read verse 2 again.
And the messenger of Yahweh appeared to him in a flame of fire from the midst of a bush. And he looked and saw that the bush burning with fire was that the what? And he looked and saw the bush burning with fire, but the bush was not consumed.
This bush was burning, but it wasn't burning up. There was fire ablaze in the bush. However, the bush wasn't dissipating. In other words, when we see something that's burning, the thing that's burning is consumed by the fire, but because the thing that's on fire is the fuel for the fire. So the fuel gets used up. So the fuel for this fire wasn't the bush. Somebody could talk about that right there. The fuel for the fire wasn't the bush. Right? If we was in one of them holiness places, somebody might get up and start running around right there.
Oh yeah.
Because there was this fire that was happening, right? And nothing that was physical was fueling the fire. He said the bush wasn't consumed, but there was fire there. And so he was looking at this spiritual thing that was happening, that was manifesting in this way that looked visible, but it wasn't. Because fire, you know, a real fire, like a fire like we know it,
Yes.
it needs
Fuel.
It needs fuel. What else do it need?
Oxygen.
It needs oxygen. But both of those things, again, we think about them, are really these physical things that are going on.
Yeah.
And so, but another part of this is the fact that Moses here, what appeared to him was the messenger of Yahweh. The messenger of Yahweh. The messenger of Yahweh, to me, you know, many people have many different thoughts about the messenger of Yahweh. When I think of the messenger of Yahweh, I think of Yeshua.
Oh yeah.
I think of Yeshua. I think of the fact that the Most High makes a way for himself to be seen and to interact in this physical realm where he himself is too big to fit inside of. And And so he has made a way for himself to be manifest in this place through the messenger of Yahweh. Let's look at a few verses here. Let's go over here to let's look at Colossians. Read Colossians 1, verse 13. Hold on. I was gonna start with 13, but I'm looking for the beginning of a sentence here. I don't want to go all the way back. Let's just go to let's go to 11. Hold on. Okay, go ahead.
Being empowered with all power, according to the might of his esteem, for all endurance and patience with joy, giving thanks to the Father who has made us fit to share in the inheritance of the set-apart ones in the light, who has delivered us from the authority of darkness and transferred us into the reign of the Son of his love.
Okay, so let's just say, who has, speaking about Elohim, speaking about the Most High, right? He's the one who has delivered us from the authority of darkness and transferred us into the reign of the Son of his love.
Mm-hmm.
The Most High did, right? 14.
14 says, in whom we have redemption through his blood, the forgiveness of sins.
Wait, whose blood? The Son of his love. That's whose blood was shed for the forgiveness of our sins. And then 15.
Who is the likeness of the invisible Elohim, the firstborn of all creation.
Messiah, Yeshua, is the likeness of the invisible Elohim. Yeshua is the likeness of the invisible Elohim. I wonder if he just at some point started to become the likeness of the invisible Elohim. Well, let's read 16 with it.
Because in him were created all that are in the heavens, and that are on the earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones of rulerships or principalities or authorities. All have been created through him and for him.
So the one who is in the likeness of the invisible Elohim created everything that was visible and is invisible, thrones and rulerships and principalities and authorities, and they was all created through him and for him. And so there's not a known time when Messiah, Yeshua, wasn't the likeness of the invisible Elohim. And so if we see the likeness of the invisible Elohim, it seems like we've seen Messiah.
That's right.
It seems like we've seen him because that's who he is. Right? What's John say? Stuff when stuff started to be created, it was created by Messiah, who was the likeness of the invisible Elohim. Maybe, perhaps there was a time before anything was created. Perhaps there was a time before anything was created, and then it was only just the Most High. But as soon as he started creating things, there was Messiah, because all things was created through and for him. What does it say in John 1 and 18? John 1 and 18.
No one has ever seen Elohim. the only brought forth Son who is in the bosom of the Father, he did declare.
Nobody's seen Elohim. Nobody never did. No one has ever seen him. But people talk about seeing him. Well, they must have seen the well, I was gonna say they must have seen the image of the invisible Elohim, who is Messiah. That's what they must have seen, right? And so when we see these different interactions with the Most High, when people are seeing things, they're seeing Yeshua. He talks to his disciples. It says to them, if you look over in John, what's 14:9? Is it 14:9?
Yeshua said to him, "Have I been with you so long, and you have not known me, Philip? He who has seen me has seen the Father. And how do you say, 'Show us the Father'?"
He's not been talking about the disciples. Have been talking about seeing the Father. Meanwhile, he's trying to let them know, if you seen me, you seen the Father. Why? Because he's the image of the invisible Elohim. Okay, so if Yeshua is the image of the invisible Elohim, then if we ever see an image of Elohim, then what we're seeing is Yeshua. Right? And so Moses this is what he's seeing. And so Moses did a level of spirituality that allows him to have this interaction with the Most High, and not only to have this interaction with the Most High, but be chosen for a very special purpose, which includes the actual claim to fame of the Most High, by the way.
Getting the children out of Egypt.
Yes, being the de facto deliverer of the Hebrews. Being the mouthpiece to the world of the Most High. The way in which the Almighty speaks to the heathens and to the Israelites. The only way. Most High wasn't just talking to everybody. Right? And so Moses, when he was out here in Midian, was able to make this connection with the Most High, where he was able to see and be a viable choice for the Most High. And so let's go back over to Exodus here. Because it's interesting when we look at this again and thinking about Moses as he's going forth, and see where we're able to gain some knowledge and be able to apply some of these things to our we're able to look at Moses, who was, he obviously was behaving in a way that wasn't righteous.
Yeah.
Right? The thing that he did, we can say that there was righteous indignation there, where he was doing a thing that was for the sake, let's say, of righteousness, but that's never going to be a thing that's going to cause shame. Right? If he's truly working for the Most High, there shouldn't have been shame that was connected to it. Right? He wouldn't have had to hide what he was doing if it was totally on the up and up. Right? And so we're able to look at Moses and understand that maybe he had the right intent in mind, but the execution was off. Right? He needed some refinement. But what we're saying is that when Moses goes to Midian and he gets with this priest of Midian, Jethro, I'm saying that he reached a level of qualification where the Most High said, "This one I choose to do this task." He chose Moses, right? Moses, he met whatever qualifications it was that was necessary for the Most High to say, "You're the one that I'll choose." And so it's interesting when we look at verse 3. Read verse 3 again here.
Verse 3 says, "And Moshe said, Let me turn aside now and see this great sight, why the bush does not burn."
He said in verse 3, "Let me turn aside. Let me turn aside." Where's my cursor here? Look at verse 3. Because one of the things that's necessary for us, like Moses, one of the things that's necessary for us to be able to get to the place where we're able to do the task that the Most High would have for us to be doing on his behalf is to turn aside. Look at verse 3. Let me turn aside. This word here. Sewer. To turn off. To turn off. When we think about, a thing that we as followers of Messiah must do. When we say that we're going to follow after Messiah, we have to turn off the world and live a life that is unto the Most High. We have to turn away from the things of this life. Right? We have to turn away from distractions so that we're able to concentrate on the Most High. And so when we see Moses, when we see him tending to his flock, when we see him tending to and doing all of the necessary things that are needed for him to tend to his flock, we see that he not only sees that, but he sees beyond that to this burning bush that was afar off, that he saw and was able to see that it was on fire, but the bush wasn't being consumed. And not only did he see that this thing was on fire and it wasn't being consumed, but he saw the angel of Yahweh inside of it. He understood the spiritual implications that were involved in this thing that he saw afar off. He was able to forget about the things that were present in his daily situation and focus in on the Most High so that he was able to see what it was, what the Almighty wanted for him to be doing. Right? We can see through the actions of Moses that it was necessary for him to turn away from his life. He had to turn away from his life in order to even see what it was that the Most High, was beginning to say. Right? Because he don't know what was going to happen whenever he goes over there. Right? But he can't even begin to find out until he first turns away from his life. He had to first turn away from all that was going to distract him. This thing was far off. It wasn't like in the midst of where he was. He seen it over there, over yonder. And he had to go over there to where it was. But in order to first do that, he had to turn aside now to see this great sight. Why this bush didn't burn. There was something that was going on with this bush that intrigued him, that sparked his curiosity, that caused him to want to look further into the situation to find out what was going on. He had stuff to do. Right? He had work to do with these flocks. He had some responsibilities, great responsibilities. But he said, let me turn aside now. Hold on, let me see something. Is the urgency in the Hebrew? I will now turn aside. What's this word mean? No. I pray now then. So I guess it's not like an added word. Like this is there. Like, let me pray now or then. Like, as a result of I will do it. As a result, I'm going to do it. I'm going to turn aside. Right? And so when we look at this thing that Moses is deciding to do, he's not waiting to do it. He's not saying, I'm going to make time to think about going over there. He said, I'm going over there now. I got to see what it is that he don't even know what the Most High is calling for him to do. All he knows is that the Most High is calling him, and he got to see. Yeah. And so we're able to see from Moses, he's reached a level of spiritual awareness to know that if that's the Most High over there, then I need to go and see what it is that he wants for me to be knowing right now. And then not only that, but it's interesting, not only that he does that in verse 3, but read verse 4.
Verse 4 says, and Yahweh saw that he turned aside to see.
Hold on. So he turns aside to see, and then the Most High saw that he turned aside to see. Right? Why do we have that? Why does inspiration give us that? Like he said, he turned aside. All right, he did it. So, but we have to understand that the Most High noticed. The Most High noticed that he turned aside. The Most High noticed that he put him where he was supposed to be. Right? The Most High is, in fact, Elohim. And so it's necessary for us to be able to understand that he's Elohim and treat him accordingly. Right? Because he's Elohim whether we understand him to be that or not. However, there has to be a point in time when we gain that understanding, and not only gain it, but deal with the Most High in that way. And so it's interesting when we look at verses 3 and 4 to see that Moses does a thing, and then the Most High is able to see that he did the thing, and then now he says out. Now he calls out to him. And so when we look at this, so we just look at kind of the steps that are going on, right? The Most High makes himself visible to Moshe. He lets it be known that there's something for Moshe to be doing. Now, what's he going to do? Because he could have saw the burning bush over and been like, wow, that's interesting.
He moved on with his life.
Yeah, and just kept on going. Right, that's amazing. But I got all these sheep over here. I gotta chill with these sheep. And then that was it. But when he saw the thing, he recognized, Moshe did, that I need to go over there and see what's going on with that bush that does not burn. I need to sewer. I need to turn off this. I need to turn off this world. And I need to go over there and see what's going on. And the Most High saw him do it. And then once he does that, he calls out to him. Okay, let's keep on going now. Because as we look at this, we're able to see like a process that happens with Moses, and it's something that's relevant, that's necessary in our lives. You know, I need to just say, if you think that you're better than Moses, then you're delusional. I'm just going to say it. If you think you're better than Moses, then you are out of your cotton picking mind. Moses, before he even got to the place of being able to hear from the Most High, he went through some training. Moses did. That we don't even hear about. The book ain't long enough to talk to us about the training that he went through. But does that mean that he didn't go through it? It can't mean that. It just means that we don't talk about that part. But it was obviously there. Because he was able to understand these things somehow. Why? I'm saying that it's because of who he was with. The priest of Midian was able to help him in spiritual things. Because the only thing he knew was what the Egyptians was doing. Which is craziness. Right? He was able to at least have something that was Yahweh adjacent with the Midianites from Yethro, instead of, the things that was going on with the Egyptians. He didn't have it all together by any means, but he was moving in the right direction, at least, with Yethro. But some time he had to learn how to be a shepherd. How many life lessons did Moses learn on his way? Scripture don't talk to us about it, but it's real life. He didn't just go from being the person who killed somebody and hit him to now. Even though when we look at it, it was like last chapter ago.
There was a process in there.
There was a process that happened. Time elapse. If this was a movie, we see the one Moses that's there, and then, and then it says, sometime ... And then this. And so when we look at this, there's a process that's being shown to us. We see the fact that we have to get to the point First of all, you know, separating from the things that are contrary to the Most High.
And I don't think Moses actually, when they said, "Who caused you to be a deliverer of us?" I mean, he might have just shrugged at that, because I don't think he realized
He wasn't trying to be no deliverer.
it wasn't on that level with him.
Mm-mm.
I mean, even with him being out here in leading the flock and everything, it don't seem like he's ready to go back to Egypt. It seems like he moved on.
He's not ready. He's not ready, but he's getting a particular skill set that we're able to look and see because we got the full picture already. We already know what happens with him, but we're able to see that he's gaining a particular skill set that he's going to need with dealing with all of these people.
Yeah, that's right.
And then, by the way, we see later that he learns moreover how to deal with all of these people from the person that he's with right now, Yethro. So when it comes to being a shepherd of people, we're able to see that he learns more lessons from the shepherd Yethro again later. Like he got to go back to Yoda to finish the training. He's got to go back to finish the training that already started. And so again, when we look at these verses as giving us this process that we need to follow, where we get to turn off the world so that we can hear from the Most High. That's what Moses did. How you think you supposed to do it? How you think somebody just supposed to tell you you belong to the Most High, and then now automatically you can hear from him? That's not what happens. That's not what happened. All right, let's drop down. Let's go over to let's see here. Let's go back over here. Let's see. Let's go down to read again for us verses 5 and 6.
5 and 6. 5 and 6. It says, and he said, "Do not come near here. Take your sandals off your feet, for the place on which you are standing is set apart
Well,
ground."
let's just stay right here for a moment here, because if I say, as the Most High says to Moses, this is holy ground. This is holy ground. I have to have some kind of an understanding of what that means in order to deal with that knowledge properly. And so again, we have to think about the idea that Moses had to have gained a certain amount of knowledge prior to the Most High coming and dealing with him, where he had to know what to do. So look at verse 6. Read verse 6 now.
Verse 6 says, and he said, "I am the Elohim of your father, the Elohim of Abraham, the Elohim of Yitzhak, and the Elohim of Jacob." And Moshe hid his face, for he was afraid to look at Elohim.
I'm saying, how you know that? How did he know that he was supposed to not try to look? The Most High said, "This is holy ground. Take off your shoes. I am the Elohim that your father dealt with, and his father before him, and his father before him, and his father before him, the father of your people. You supposed to be dealing with me like how they dealt with me. And so there was some things that had to be brought to his memory and brought back to the forefront of his mind. He didn't say, the Most High didn't say, hide your face from me and be afraid. That was his response, though. But he knew of that. And so we understand that Moses here, there's a degree of understanding that he has here. And by the way, that element is a key element in our faith, which is, here, let's look at this here. Let's look at this here. Verse 6. Verse 6. Yahweh. Fear. Revere. Frightened, afraid. Dread. Reverence. Right? All of these things. Let's look at Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy 28. 58. Deuteronomy 28. 58 and 59.
If you do not guard to do all the words of this Torah that are written in this book, to fear this esteemed and awesome name, Yahweh your Elohim, then Yahweh shall bring upon you and your descendants extraordinary plagues, great and lasting plagues, and grievous and lasting sicknesses.
He said to fear this glorious and awesome name, Yahweh your Elohim. You have to guard all of these words of this Torah that's written in this book. But the thing that you're doing when you're guarding all of these words that's written in this book is manifesting the fear and it says to fear this glorious, this esteemed and awesome name. And so the way that you fear this esteemed and glorious name is to guard the words of this Torah that's written in this book. It's the fear of Yahweh. Here, let's look at this. He understood it. He understood it. Ecclesiastes 12. 13 and 14.
Let us hear the conclusion of the entire matter.
This is the conclusion of the whole matter.
Fear Elohim and guard his commands, for this applies to all mankind.
Oh my goodness. This is the most important thing that could be. To fear Elohim and guard his commandments. And so again, once Moses was able to really fully understand who he was dealing with, he was afraid. He had that fear. He had that fear. He hid his face. He understood that he wasn't worthy to look upon the holiness of who the Most High is. Read 14.
For Elohim shall bring every work into right ruling, including all that is hidden, whether good or whether evil.
Okay, very good. So, The fear of Yahweh is so important. So important. Proverbs. Let's look at Proverbs. And he's understanding. He's having this as a basic understanding. He don't know all of the things, right? But the first of the things that he does know is the fear of Yahweh. He understands it. He don't understand all of the intricacies of things. But what he does understand, once he figures out who that is, I can't be looking at him. I can't be looking at that holiness. I'm not worthy.
Mm-hmm.
Right? He understands the difference between himself and the Most High. Read verse 7 right here.
7. The fear of Yahweh is the beginning of knowledge. Fools despise wisdom and discipline.
Okay, very good. The beginning of knowledge is the fear of Yahweh.
Everybody is crying.
And so when we look at Moses and the way that he is dealing with his current situation, we're seeing that Moses had some preparatory training that was able to cause him to respond properly when he got into this particular situation. Okay, all right. So let's keep on looking here because it's a process. It's a process that not only the Moses goes through, but that we're able to look at that same process and understand that our process has got to be something similar to this. Right? These are basic things that we too must be able to understand if we want to allow for the Most High to be able to use us in the way that He is calling for us to be used.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's look at verses 7 and 8 here.
7 and 8. It says, and Yahweh said, I have indeed seen the oppression of my people who are in Mitzrayim, and have heard their cry because of their slave drivers, for I know their sorrows. And I have come down to deliver them from the hand of the Mitzrites, and to bring them up from that land to a good and spacious land, to a land flowing with milk and honey.
Okay, so when we look at this, right, there's things that we want to pay attention to. Namely, the fact that, first of all, when we think about the Most High, the way He deals with us, and things that He says, even through Yeshua, right? Even through Yeshua, when we look and say, let's see. Here, let's just go here really fast, just to get this basic kind of concept. Because the Most High, He creates us to be in His image. He created us to be in His image.
Yeah.
So at some point, we have to start looking like the Most High.
Mm.
At some point, we need to start looking like the Most High. Let's look at Matthew 5:48.
Matthew 5:48. Therefore be perfect, as your Father in the heavens is perfect.
He said, you got to be a way, because the way that you got to be is the way that the Most High is. You got to be a way, and the way that you got to be is only like that because that's how the Most High is. He wants you to be like him. If we look at Leviticus, Yeshua said, "Be perfect."
Oh, yeah.
Not just because of anything, but because your Father in heaven is perfect, so you could be like him. Look at Leviticus 11:45.
11:45. It says, "For I am Yahweh who is
44.
44. It says, "For I am Yahweh your Elohim, and you shall set yourselves apart, and you shall be set apart, for I am set apart. And do not defile yourselves
Hold
with
on.
any."
That's what we wanted right there. He said, "You be holy because I'm holy." You be holy because I'm holy. And so when we think about Moses, right, these are things that he's learning to understand. The fact that I need to fear the Most High. I need to fear the Most High. But not only do I have to fear the Most High, but I have to begin to be like the Most High. I need to begin to conduct myself in a manner that looks Most High like. And so when we look at Moses and this kind of picture of the way that Moses is coming along, you know, these are the things that are in the equation of coming and operating according to the Most High's plan. Okay, and so when we look over here at verses 7 and 8, he's saying that I have seen the issues that have been going on with my people, and I'm about to make myself be known to them through you. Okay, so let's go down here because I want to call attention as we think about the fact that Moses has understanding they must fear the Most High. And when we fear the Most High, part of that fear of the Most High is doing the things that he likes. And part of manifesting the fear of the Most High is actually behaving as the Most High would behave if he were in fact a human. By the way, when we walk in the Torah, you know, the Torah itself is the character of the Most High humanized. And so he gives us his Torah so that we can walk around and do what he would do if he walked around. And so when we go down to say verse, here, let's read again 9 through 11. Exodus 3, 9 through 11.
says, and now see, the cry of the children of Israel has come to me, and I have also seen the oppression with which the Mithrites oppress them. And now come, I am sending you to Pharaoh to bring my people, the children of Israel, out of Mitzrayim. And Moshe said to Elohim, who am I that I should go to Pharaoh, and that I should bring the children of Israel out of Mitzrayim?
Moses is exhibiting here humility. A modest estimate of one's own worth. That's what humility is. A modest estimate of one's own worth. Who am I? You got this huge thing that you need to be done, and you asked me to do it? Why couldn't you have got somebody that was worthy to do it? I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy. Who am I? Moses has a modest estimate of his own worth. Humility. Look what it says here. Look what it says here in Numbers.
He really did. He wasn't.
He's exhibiting the character of the Most High. Where does he learn? He hasn't had a genuine experience with the Most High, but he's learning about what his ways. He's learning about the ways that the Most High likes, and he's starting to behave in a way that is like unto the Most High. And the Most High says, you're ready right now. You're ready right now. I'm coming to get you right now. But look at this. Numbers 12 and 3. Read this.
12 and 3 says, and the man Moshe was very humble, more than all men who were on the face of the earth.
What? Who said this? Read verse 2.
And they said, has Yahweh spoken only through Moshe? Has he not also spoken through us? And Yahweh heard it. And the man Moshe was very humble, more than all who were on the face of the earth.
I feel like this is kind of like a narration in the text, right? Because if I say, I'm so incredibly humble. In fact, I'm more humble than any man who's ever walked the earth. That's not humble.
That's not very humble, no.
As soon as you say you're humble, you're not humble.
I'm so humble. Humbly. I'm so humble. Right? That's not humble, right? But when we think about humility, right? We think about the idea of not having a modest estimate of one's own worth, right? Moses had that about his own self, right? Humility consists of a lowliness of mind, a deep sense of one's own worthlessness in the sight of Elohim. He had a genuine sense of worthlessness in the sight of Elohim, because when Elohim made himself known, he tried to hide himself. In the sight of Elohim, he tried to make himself be invisible, right? He made himself low. He hid his face, right? And so he showed that he had a deep sense of one's own unworthiness in the sight of Elohim. Moses did. And so, but this is a example of meekness and humility, which is an example of the character of the Most High. Let's look at this. let's go over to Isaiah 57. Isaiah. Let's see here. 57. And here, read verse 15 here.
15. For thus declares the high and exalted one who dwells forever, whose name is set apart. I dwell in the high and set apart place, with him who has a bruised and humble
Hold on, he
spirit.
said, I dwell in the high and set apart place with who?
With him who has a bruised and humble spirit, to revive the spirit of the humble, and to revive the heart of the bruised one.
Okay, so this is interesting because he said, first of all, I dwell in this set apart place. But there's people that can dwell in this set apart place with me who have a bruised and humble spirit. But they who might have this bruised and humble spirit, I am going to revive the spirit of the humble and revive their heart, the bruised ones. And so we have to be able with the Most High to be able to conduct ourselves in such a way like Moses and exhibit humility and a deep sense of one's own worthiness in the sight of Elohim. And then he will cause us to be able to be worthy in the sight of men. He said over here, he's going to dwell with the bruised and the ones that are bruised and have a humble spirit, to revive the spirit and of the humble and to revive the heart of the bruised ones. So he don't want you to be this way only, but he definitely wants you to be this way as it relates to him. You know, if we walked around and just allow for ourselves just to be downtrodden by everyone, right? Where's that going to get us? He said, I dwell in the high set apart place with him who has a bruised and humble spirit, to revive the spirit of the humble and to revive the heart of the bruised ones. The Most High is bringing Moses to do this task that it can't be done if he goes over there talking about, oh, Pharaoh, can you just please just do what I'm asking for you to do? Pharaoh, please? Can you just help me a little bit? I have this thing that I need for you to do and help me with. Can you just please just help me with it, please? Pharaoh? That's not going to work. He's got to go in there with a particular confidence about his situation and a matter of factness that he must possess in doing this thing, right? And this is what it is that the Most High is able to see in Moses, where he's got these things already. right? But he needs for these qualities and these characteristics to be put in their proper places, right? And again, the Most High has allowed for Moses to go through this kind of training, right? Because again, he's exhibiting these things, right? When the Most High shows himself, he understands his place, right? Let's look at let's see, Isaiah 66. What's this say? 66, read verse 2.
2 says, "And all these my hand has made, and all these that exist declares Yahweh. Yet to such a one I look."
Sorry, 1 second. All right, go ahead. Read it, start again.
It says, "And all these my hand has made, and all these that exist declares Yahweh. Yet to such a one I look, on him who is poor and bruised of spirit, and who trembles at my word."
These are the things that we are to be able to understand that the Most High desires of us. When we think about the idea of trembling at the words of the Most High, this is all about having a reverence and respect for the Most High and who He is. And when we understand who He is, we're able to see and know that He's truly able to do what His word says that is able to do. And we're able to trust in that. Okay, so when we look and see that Moses has a clear understanding of who the Most High is, when he's able to look back and say, "Oh, you mean the Elohim of my father? And Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob?" When he looks back at that, we're able to see that, oh, now when he sees that, now he acts accordingly. And so this too, for us, this is our kind of path of understanding. When we get to the place of understanding who the Most High is, now we should respond accordingly to the things that's necessary. In our situation, when we're able to understand who the Most High is in relation to who the Most High is in relation to who we are, we should know that because of who we are, something needs to be done. Right? Because our current situation is, puts us at odds with the Most High. It puts us at odds with the Most High. And we need a way back to the good graces of the Most High, right? After we find out who He is and who we are in sight of Him. And the only way back to Him is, in fact, Messiah. The way that He made for us, who is, in fact, the image of the invisible Elohim. Right? And so Moses looks and sees and has his understanding, of all of these things, and, gets this kind of revelation, this knowledge that he receives from within, this knowledge of who the Most High is. And now, he's ready to get his marching orders. Right? He's ready to get his marching orders. He knows that the Most High has a plan. He's not sure how this plan is going to be kind of carried out, because, the Most High is asking him to do it, and he's, of course, the most humblest man in the world. and he's going to need an extra push. But he does in fact understand that the Most High has a job and task for him, and he's reluctantly ready. Right? He's reluctantly ready. He understands that, humbly, I can't, I surely can't do all of this that you're asking for me to be doing, but I guess I'm able to do it. Right, so let's keep on going over here, because as we look at this, we're able to see that there's a few more interesting things that we want to take note of here. Let's see. Let's go back over to Exodus 3. Okay, so read again 12 and 13. Hold on one second. Okay, go ahead.
You said 12 and 13?
Yes.
12. It says, and he said, because I am with you, and this is to you the sign that I have sent you. When you have brought the people out of Mitzrayim, you are to serve Elohim on its mountain.
Well, hold on one second. Let's go back. Let's go back to 11.
11. And Moshe said to Elohim, who am I that I should go to Pharaoh, and that I should bring the children of Israel out of Mitzrayim?
Okay, so Moshe asked the question. He understands his lowliness, right? He understands he has, in fact, this deep sense of his own unworthiness in the sight of Elohim. Elohim has this task for him to do. He says, no, please, I'm not worthy. Who am I to do this thing? Right? How am I supposed to go between, before Pharaoh? How am I able to bring the children of Israel out of Mitzrayim? In verse 12, he says, because I'm with you. Right? Very clear and simple. Because I am with you. And the simple fact that he's able to say that, and for the simple fact that's able to be kind of an effective argument that the Most High uses here, just further causes us to be able to understand that Moses, in fact, understands the fear of Yahweh. Because anybody could say, well, come on, let's go over here, let's do this thing. Don't worry, we could do it because I'm here. For that to be like something that means something, you must have a trust in the one who's saying that they're there in order for that to mean anything. Like, there's these guys, they keep on bothering me. I can't walk down the street without them messing with me. There's no way I'm able to go down here to the place because I gotta walk past these people. They're gonna bother me. And then for somebody to just say, well, I'll go with you. And then you say, all right then. That shows that you're putting your trust not in your own self, but in the one that's going with you. And so when we look at Moses and the Most High, even for the Most High even to be able to say, I can't go down here, but you could go if I'm with you, again, helps us to be able to see that Moses has an understanding of who the Most High is, that fear of Yahweh. And so again, if we look over here, he said, because I'm with you, and keep on reading.
He said, because I am with you, and this is to you the sign that I have sent you. When you have brought the people out of Mitzrayim, you are to serve Elohim on this mountain.
Okay, this is interesting because it's interesting that the sign that you're being sent by the Most High is the fact that the task is done. And so it's one thing to say that the sign that I'm with you is that when you go and do the thing that I'm saying for you to do, then you'll get, some little various kind of,
Incentives.
maybe some incentives along the way, or, I'll be visibly there with you every step of the way. But he said, the sign that I have sent you, you'll know that I've sent you when you're out.
At the end. You gotta make it all the way. You gotta make it to the end.
When you're done, then you'll know that I sent you. But if you never get to the end, then I guess I didn't send you, maybe.
You won't ever have known what it was going to be if you would have went.
But when we look at that right there, that's faith. That's faith, right? Because I'm with you. That's all you need. And this, by the way, is the sign that I sent you when you have brought the people out of Mizraim. What? What you mean? I would have had to have gone through the entire process to know that I had the sign on me. But that's what he's saying over here. And so this is faith. This is a picture of the most quintessential aspect of this life that we live, which is in fact faith. We have to walk by faith, not by sight. He said over here, you'll know that I'm with you when you're done with the task. When you go ahead and do the thing that you're scared to do, you'll know that I was with you, because after you go and do it, you'll be successful at the end. All right, keep on going to verse 13.
And Moshe said to Elohim, see, when I come to the children of Israel and say to them, the Elohim of your fathers has sent me to you. And they say to me, what is his name? What shall I say to them?
Okay, so Moses is potentially getting to the place where, all right, I understand who you are. I'll do the thing. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I don't envision myself being able to complete this task that you're calling for me to do. But okay, let's just roll with it. But what am I supposed to tell them? What am I supposed to say to these people? How am I supposed, like, they're not here looking at the fact that I'm looking at this bush that's burning and there's no physical fuel involved in it. They can't see this. They're not at this burning bush experiencing the presence of the Most High in front of their faces. They just got to hear me go back and talk to them, who is estranged from his people at this point. Well, the last thing that they remember about him is him sitting up here killing people, and acting like he's the judge and ruler of the people.
Because he's going to come back and say, oh, yeah, I am the judge.
I know.
and ruler of
I
law."
know.
Uh,
I know. Everything they said about him is true.
yeah.
What is the people supposed to be like? Whatever they sit up here and kind of mockingly say to him, who is you to sit up here and talk to me like this? For him to really go back and be like, come on, y'all. The Most High said, I'm going to lead y'all out of here. It seems like it's just a more of a situation that the Most High is putting him in, but it's like at the same time the Most High is requiring much faith of everybody involved here, whether it be Moses or whether it be the people, because the people got to believe that the Most High is actually choosing Moses, and they got to believe that the whole thing can actually take place. So he's like, what is the name that I'm going to tell these people? What is the name that I'm going to tell these people? The honor and authority and character that is going to be associated with the one who's going to bring these people out. What is it? And then look what he say here in verse 14. Read verse.
And Elohim said to Moshe, I am that which I am. And he said, thus you shall say to the children of Israel, I am has sent you.
And so when we look at this, we look at this Aya, Asher, Aya thing that is being said over here, I am that which I am. This is kind of directing the people to be able to have an understanding of who the Most High is. You think the people need to have a name and a reputation and, you know, a memorial, and to understand the glory of who it is that's sending you. So the Most High says, you say to them, I am that which I am. This is giving the people an understanding of who the Most High is, so that they too can understand the fear of Yahweh. Like if we really understand what he's saying over here, right? If we really have a true understanding of what it is that the Most High is expressing when he says, I am that I am, Aya, Asher, Aya. If we have an understanding of what it is that he's saying, it helps us to understand who he is. Let's look at this a little bit. Let's look at verse 14. Haya. To exist. That is, be or become, come to pass. And so when we think about the Most High, who has called all that exists into existence. The Most High called all that exists into existence. That's who I am. The one that exists and calls all into existence, that is who is sending you. The one that is the breath and the one that caused breath to be, that is who is sending you. The one who is power and the one who exerts power, that is the one who is sending you. And so when we look at this, it's interesting because, you know, some people look at this and they say, you know, the Ahaya people, the Ahaya people, they look at this and they say, oh yes, this is the actual name of the Most High. Not Yod He Wahe, but this right here, Ahaya. I am that I am. Eya Asher Eya. But when we really understand what it is that the Most High is doing over here with Moses, he's essentially building a case for himself to go and deal with the people, to help the people to be able to understand who he is. Okay? Where he says to them, I am that I am. Okay, and so he says, further, moreover, and this is the interesting part because he don't just stop at I am that I am. He don't just stop there as the people try to get us to do. Right? If we want to know what the Most High's name is, we can go to Exodus chapter 3 and verse 15. Right? Because it begins at I am that I am, which if we understand, if we have an understanding of the Hebrew here, is that the name Yahweh, what we have here with the Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh, is really a derivative of this this word here. There's a connection grammatically between this over here, I am, and Yahweh. There is a connection. This is to exist. This word here is I be, essentially. I be what I be. I be who I be. And then Yahweh really is the one that be. There's a connection between verse 14 and 15. He gives the people an idea of the things that kind of have the characteristics that the Most High exhibits, and the fact that he be who he be. And then we look at 15 where he says moreover or further. Is that a word over here? What is this here? Moreover, he said, and Elohim said, moreover, od, continuance, right? Continually speaking here. Still more again, right? Besides that, furthermore, like this idea in the English of moreover or further is something that exists in the Hebrew. It's not just English. I mean, it's not just English here. It's something that exists in the Hebrew. And so if we say that 14 is making a statement as to who the Most High is, 15, it really is giving us this idea of furthermore in the Hebrew. Furthermore, he said, this is what you are to say to the people. Yahweh Elohim of your fathers, Elohim of Abraham, Elohim of Yitzchak, Elohim of Yaakov has sent me to you. This is my name forever, and this is my remembrance to all generations. And so when we think about, again, what the Most High is doing with Moses here, in even saying all this, he's giving Moses grounds to stand on in terms of his own faith and in terms of strengthening the faith of the people, causing for the people to understand who he is, the one who breathes and the one who gives breath and the one who is breath, the Most High. You know, because when you look at his name here, what is this? It's a yod and a hey. A yod is the hand that, a yod is the hand, you know, the hand from above that does the work. It comes down and interacts. This hand comes down and interacts and brings the man with his arms raised, which is the breath, which you looked at earlier, right? And so it brings breath and it adds and secures breath, is who Yahweh is. He's the one who comes and adds and works breath, and he adds breath. We as human beings that are living out this earthly experience, we can't be without breath. The thing that causes us to be is in fact breath. If you stop breathing,
You leaving.
you die. Right? And so the one who brings it with his hand and offers it to you and then secures it in you and adds it to you is who he is. The one who brings revelation and adds revelation to you is who he is. The one who brings life, the one who brings life-giving substances and adds life-giving substances to you is who he is. That's the one who has sent you. Remember that forever, and let it be a memorial forever to you. That's what he says to the people. And so this, again, is what Moses is told by the Most High to tell the people. Like, if you think about what's happening here, you know, give me a reason to to be able to go back to these people. Give me a reason to be able to go back to these people and tell them something that's going to cause them to believe what it is that's going on here. And this is what the Most High says. Right? This is what he leads with. But this is all that needs to be. If we're able to understand who the Most High is, then anything that He says, anything that He desires for us to be doing, to know who He is and have an understanding of who He is all of the explaining that one might need. And that's all He gave them. All He gave them was, I am the creator and sustainer of all things. You tell them that's who sent you. And so when we think about this process that Moses is going through, as it relates to the Most High coming and choosing Moses to go on this tremendous task and do this thing that seems like it's undoable. The only kind of reason that the Most High gives to Moses is, look at who I am. Understand who I am, and that should be enough. That should be the thing to get you over the hump. And so when we think about how we're able to look at this whole thing then and kind of bring it into something that's applicable to our situation, you know, there's no difference between what Moses had to have gone through and what we now must go through in order to come to the Most High. Is understanding who He is and where we stand in the sight of who He is. Understanding that we, as humans, are in a place that is in utter despair, and we need deliverance. And the Most High has in fact made a way of deliverance. But without that way of deliverance, we absolutely cannot be delivered. We can't deliver ourselves. We can only be delivered.
Has to be something done to us.
Something has to happen. I have to come down and smack Miss Ryan with my hand, he says. I'm going to rescue you with my hand. I'm going to interact with you and with who it is that holds you and take you out to worship me. Let's go back. One last thing we want to look at. Let's go back I don't know what's going on with this thing. I have to reset my computer here. Let's look at this last part here. In Exodus. Hold on a second. Let me add this in. Keeps jumping out. Let's drop down to. It don't even stay. But let's just read it because this is not working out.
Alright.
Hold on one second. Let me release this. Okay, read for us. Again. 3 and 18.
3 and 18 says, "And they shall listen to your voice, and you shall come and the elders of Israel to the sovereign of Mitzrayim, and you shall say to him, Yahweh Elohim of the Hebrews has met with us. And now please let us go 3 days' journey into the wilderness to slaughter to Yahweh our Elohim."
Okay, very good. So we see not only is the Most High seeking to deliver his people, not just for the sake of freeing them from Pharaoh, not just for the simple fact of freeing Israel from Egypt, but with the purpose of worshiping him. And so when we think about the fact that the Most High requires for us not only to turn away from the world, not only does he call for us to turn aside from, those things that exist in this carnal situation, but he also calls for us to turn towards him. He said, when we look at Acts, Acts chapter 2, 38. Here, read Acts chapter 2. Acts chapter 2 and 38.
38. It says,
Hold on. Read 37 and 38.
37 says, "And having heard this, they were pierced to the heart, and said to Kepha and the rest of the emissaries, Men, brothers, what shall we do? And Kepha said to them, Repent."
He said, when Peter goes through this whole situation to try to explain to the people who the Most High is and what his plans for deliverance is, which is Yeshua. He explained to them Yeshua. He explained to them the deliverer. Then there was a call to action. What must we do? Now that we have an understanding of who the Most High is, now that we have an understanding what his plan for deliverance is, what is it that we must do? And then he said in 38, what do it say?
And Kepha said to them, Repent, and let each one of you be immersed in the name of Yeshua Messiah for the forgiveness of sins, and you shall receive the gift of the set-apart Spirit.
He said, turn away from sin. Turn away from the things that bind you and be immersed in the name of Yeshua Messiah. Turn away from sin and be immersed in the character of the Most High, humanized, who is Messiah. Be connected to the only way of deliverance, Messiah. And so it's interesting when we look at the way in which Moses, goes through his kind of initiation into this task of being the deliverer, that he kind of gives us this outline overview of what our conversion transition is for our own selves. Is that we really have to go through a process, right, of not only turning away from sin and turning away from Moses turned away from sin, right? He walked away, he ran away from sin, Egypt. Right? He ran away from the captor, the thing that binds him up, and he begins to learn a new way of life. Right? And then he not only that, but he becomes connected to the creator and sustainer of all things himself, and then he goes and tells his people how they're able to be connected to the creator and sustainer of all things, and how they're all able to go and be with him in a place that is flowing with milk and honey, that's separated from all of the things that bind them and hold them back. This is the gospel over here in Exodus chapter 3. When we think about this, and it all began with this shepherd, right? That sees, right? Where Yeshua for us is the great shepherd, right? He's the good shepherd, right? Who we follow, who causes us to see and be, back where we're supposed to be. Okay, so that being said, do we have any last questions, comments about any of these things here today? All right, so that being said, we will say for now, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
And y'all willing, we'll be back on next Shabbat to continue with our look at Exodus. All right. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.